Gracias por estar con nosotros una vez más en su programa, Charlas Magistrales de la Barra Mexicana, Colegio de Abogados. Hoy tenemos un invitado realmente especial. Tenemos un invitado que está dedicado a un tema pues novedoso, de gran utilidad práctica, pero sobre todo de gran eficiencia en el trabajo como herramienta para ser utilizada. Y sobre todo que nos va a comentar cómo puede ser esta herramienta útil para el sector legal de nuestro país. Por eso nuestro programa es llamado La aplicación de la inteligencia artificial generativa en el derecho. Y tendremos el gusto de platicar con Heiko Altrichter, que es un director de tecnología de Madur.com, es el Chief Technology Officer, y es un gusto enorme tenerlo con nosotros, y debo anticiparle a nuestro público que la entrevista será en inglés y que por supuesto la producción de nuestro canal pondrá los subtítulos correspondientes. Es un gusto tener con nosotros a Heiko, precisamente por dedicarnos este valioso tiempo de su trabajo a comentarnos todos los beneficios que la inteligencia artificial generativa puede darnos a los abogados.
Heiko Altrichter estudió en la Deutsche School Shanghai de 2006 a 2008 y es licenciado en Administración de Empresas, Bachelor of Business Administration, BBA, Finanzas y Gestión de Servicios Financieros desde 2016 por la Holt International Business School y cuenta con una maestría en Emprendimiento, Estudios Empresariales por la University of Cambridge que cursó de 2019 a 2021. A partir de enero de 2017 se desempeña como Director General, Estrategias de Inversión en Laxford Capital, así como Director de Tecnología en Maudu3.com, desde mayo de 2023, ambas con base en Berlín, Alemania. En julio de 2021 fue cofundador de Creative Human AI, de la cual se desempeña como CEO, cuya base también se encuentra en Berlín.
Heiko, artificial intelligence, better known as AI, is an exacting field. Could you explain what traditional artificial intelligence is?
Absolutely. When you hear about artificial intelligence or AI, people usually think about robots, self-driving cars, sometimes even movie characters like WALL-E or C-3PO. But at its core, traditional AI is about teaching machines to do tasks that normally would require human intelligence. This could be anything from recognizing a face in a photo to translating a sentence from English to Spanish. I would say traditional AI works like a detective. It takes a look at some information, for example, a photo, a sentence, or a series of numbers, and it tries to make sense of it. For example, it might look at a photo and tell you whether it's a picture of a cat or a dog. Traditional AI also makes predictions based on patterns that it sees in data. For example, it could look at the weather pattern from the last week, and then it'll predict if it will rain tomorrow. In a nutshell, that's what traditional AI is.
Okay, now could you brief us on the difference between generative AI and traditional AI?
Sure. So generative AI is a subfield of artificial intelligence. And it's a new type of AI that's not just anymore about understanding information. It's about creating something new from it. So if we go back to our detective example, traditional AI is like a detective that examines a painting and tells you what it is. But generative AI is more like an artist who creates a completely new painting. So if we go back to the earlier example of a photo, generative AI could create a completely new image of a cat or a dog, even if it didn't see that particular animal ever before. So it uses what it's learned from all the photos that it has seen during its training and then creates something completely new. But this doesn't only apply to pictures. Generative AI can create all kinds of things, like a piece of music, a segment in a video game, or in this case, even a legal document. It kind of opens up a whole world of possibilities, and it can be a very powerful tool in many fields, including the legal profession, if we apply it correctly.
How does generative AI acts as a driving force for innovation in the legal field?
Okay. Imagine you had a really super efficient assistant that could help you with all the writing, all the reading tasks in your work. That assistant will never get tired. It works very, very fast, and it keeps on learning. It learns from every single task that they do. That's a little bit like what generative AI can do in the legal field. It's like a super smart secretary, legal secretary. It can help you draft documents like contracts, court briefs, and it learns from all the similar documents that it's seen before to create a new one that fits your needs exactly for your use case. So it's in another way, it's like having a super fast typist who already knows what you want to say. AI, generative AI, can also do a lot of the reading for you. So let's say you want to do some research on a case or on a legal issue. Instead of spending hours or days or even weeks looking through legal texts, case files, and law journals, you could let generative AI do that heavy lifting for you. It can sift through extensive legal databases, find the most relevant documents for you. It can give you summaries and even insights. So it can tell you what it learned from it. So that's like a little bit like having a personal law librarian who can read and summarize thousands of books in a single afternoon. I would say that's not all. Generative AI is all about creating. It's about understanding and discovering new knowledge. So it could even give you a second opinion on your cases. It can look at all the cases, the similar cases from the past that you've done and that you've been involved in, and then make predictions about how your case might go. It's not a crystal ball, but it's a tool. It's a tool that can help you make more informed decisions. I would say the most exciting thing about generative AI is the potential to come up with new ideas. It's just like a junior associate. They might surprise you with a fresh perspective on a case. Just like that, generative AI, after it understands the patterns and the rules from all the legal text that it's read, might suggest new strategies, new legal strategies, or new arguments. So it's a little bit like your brainstorming partner that's read every legal document that's ever been written. But I would say that just like any other new tool, generative AI does bring a lot of questions and challenges. And most of these usually revolve around trust, accountability, privacy, and fairness. So as we embrace this new technology, and trust me, everyone will, we also need to navigate these issues very, very carefully.
Wow, it's amazing. Which specific legal task can greatly benefit from the integration of generative AI?
Absolutely. In principle, generative AI has the potential to revolutionize many aspects of the legal profession. And until now, we've only really scratched the surface of what's possible. But if you're thinking of some specific legal tasks, for example, I could think of automated contract drafting. So by us analyzing, or the AI analyzing thousands of contract templates, generative AI can learn the structure and language that you typically use in your contracts, and then generate new drafts tailored to your specific situations and use cases, which saves you a lot of time and reduces the error margin. Another one would be predictive case outcome analysis. We've seen a lot of success there, because generative AI can analyze your historical case data to identify the patterns and trends that were in there. And that can help the AI to predict the most likely outcome of ongoing or even future cases before they ever go to court. And that can, of course, help lawyers better advise their clients and make superior strategic decisions. Another way that I could think of is legal research and document review. It's one of the most common tasks that paralegals and legal secretaries have to do. And instead of spending hours and hours on manpower, generative AI can very quickly and very efficiently sift through very large volumes of your legal documents, such as your case laws and legislation, and it identifies for you the relevant patterns and then summarizes the key points. And this would save countless of hours of manual research and helps lawyers focus on what's relevant. The last example that I can think of is legal brief generation. Because by learning the structure and language that you use in your legal briefs, generative AI can help you create well-structured, coherent, persuasive arguments that you can use in court proceedings. The answers won't be perfect, but they will give you an idea of where to go and do 80-90% of the work for you, so you can focus on what's relevant.
It's a great tool. It's amazing.
Potentially.
What are the primary risks and ethical concerns that need to be addressed when incorporating generative AI into legal practices?
Okay. I would say there's 4 big ones. There's bias and fairness, accountability and liability, security and privacy, and transparency and explainability. These are kind of like the primary risks that we encounter in any kind of industry vertical. So while AI does offer a lot of benefits to the legal sector, there's also certain risks that we must kind of ensure that they are addressed. So let's start with the first one, bias and fairness. There's an old data science saying, and that says, garbage in, garbage out. So generative AI can inadvertently learn and perpetuate biases that are present in your data. And that can lead to sometimes unfair or discriminatory outcomes. So we need to make sure that the data that we use to train these models is representative and free from our human biases, because those could really harm certain groups or individuals. The second one that I mentioned is accountability and liability. Because if a human makes the decision, accountability is clear. The human is responsible. But when generative AI makes the decision for you, it's not so simple. So determining who is responsible for the actions and decisions made by a generative AI system can be pretty challenging. And that's especially true if the system generates incorrect or harmful content. So we need to make sure that we have clear guidelines on accountability and liability so that we address these concerns before they come up. Because otherwise, people will lose trust and faith in the technology. The third one that I brought up was security and privacy. And this is what we hear almost always. Because generative AI systems can potentially be used to generate false or misleading information, that could, especially in the legal field, have very serious consequences. So in order to deploy generative AI properly, we must put safeguards in place to prevent this unauthorized access or misuse of these technologies. And the last one, the last big one, is transparency and explainability. Even in our field, in the technology field, we often think of AI as a black box. So the decision-making processes of generative AI can sometimes be a little bit opaque, not very clear. And that makes it difficult to understand how the system arrived at a particular outcome. And so we need to make sure, and even we in technology are not very good at that, we need to make sure that transparency and explainability in generative AI systems is present, because it's essential to maintaining the trust and the confidence in their use, within the legal sector especially. Legal professionals like yourself, your clients, and any other stakeholders must be able to understand how and why an AI-generated output was produced, so that we can make sure that it's accurate, fair, and legally compliant.
And how is the widespread adoption of generative AI expected to impact the career paths and skill sets required for lawyers and legal professionals?
Okay. This is a question that that we get from almost any area. It's how is my job going to change? What do I need to do in order to be a competitive member of the workforce? Not just today, but tomorrow, in 2 years, in 5 years from now. And generative AI changed the game overnight. It takes mundane, everyday tasks and just does them at least of comparable quality as a human, or of better quality, in a fraction of a time. So the legal profession, just like any other profession, will have to evolve. And I think I can also here point to 4 major changes. The first one is an emphasis on technology proficiency. So as generative AI becomes more and more prevalent in the legal sector and other sectors, legal professionals will have to develop a very strong understanding of these technologies to make sure that they can effectively leverage their capabilities and their ethical use. And ethical, I cannot stress this enough. The second way that the legal job is going to change, or the job of a legal professional, is increased focus on specialized legal knowledge. Because generative AI can handle a lot of routine tasks, and more every day as we advance in this technology. They can do drafting of contracts, they can perform legal research, and they can summarize for you. So that frees up a lot of the legal professionals' time. So they can dedicate a lot more of their time to develop specialized knowledge in specific areas of law, so that they can provide more targeted and more high-value service to their clients. There will also be a stronger focus on data and on enhanced analytical, strategic skills. Because generative AI can provide you with a lot of insights and predictions based on your very large volume of data. So legal professionals will almost have to become data scientists or data analysts. They will have to really sharpen their analytical and strategic skills so that they can interpret and apply this information in their practice. Because if you don't understand the data, it's not useful to you. And for sure, there will also be new legal roles and new opportunities. So there's a whole new subfield on AI ethics, on compliance, and regulation. And these roles will require legal professionals to possess a combination of legal expertise and technical knowledge so that they can navigate this new complex landscape of all these AI technologies. So upskilling and training to become more tech savvy is definitely going to become one of the big differentiators of the legal profession tomorrow.
Wow, it's wonderful. Wonderful. What key benefits and potential challenges should be considered when developing regulatory frameworks governing the use of generative AI in the legal sector?
Okay, benefits and challenges. First off, I think this is an excellent question because right now there's no regulation. And this is both dangerous and at the same time, it can even harm innovation. So regulatory frameworks need to be developed. But when we do that, there's both benefits as well as challenges to those regulations, right? And I think the benefits are pretty clear. We can protect rights and interests. We can ensure fairness and accountability. And if regulation is done right, we can encourage innovation and competitiveness. So let's dig a little bit deeper. What I mean by protection of rights and interests is that regulation can help make sure that generative AI is used ethically and responsibly, protecting the rights and interests of individuals, groups, and organizations that are affected by its output. And the more we use generative AI, the more people will be affected by this. And especially the legal field is a very dicey subject because it's very bad to be wrong. The second one is that I talked about is ensuring fairness and accountability. And here's where regulation can really help. Because regulatory frameworks can establish guidelines and standards that promote these things like fairness, accountability, transparency in the development and the use of generative AI systems in the legal sector. The last thing was encouraging innovation and competitiveness. So we see the most innovation in traditional sciences when there's a clear legal framework that for the use of these technologies, and in this case, generative AI. And if regulation is done right, it can help foster innovation, and it maintains a competitive environment in the legal sector. It makes sure that the likes of Google and OpenAI don't dominate. The challenges, however, are always a little bit of a fine line, because regulation can be good and it can also be harmful. And to strike a balance between innovation and regulation is vitally important. Because we need to have a balance between encouraging innovation and protecting the public interest. And over-regulation can stifle innovation. But under-regulation leaves a lot of room for unethical practices and unintended consequences. Another challenge is keeping up with rapid technological advancements. Because generative AI especially is a very rapidly evolving field, and regulatory frameworks need to take this into account. They need to be adaptable so that they can keep pace with new developments and ensure that they remain relevant and effective. And the last major challenge that I see is international coordination. Because technologies, and especially AI technologies, are not really bound by geographic borders. And especially their use in the legal sector could involve cross-border transactions and interactions. So developing regulatory frameworks that are consistent and are also harmonized and agreeable across different jurisdictions is going to be the key. And it's going to be very crucial to address the global nature of generative AI.
Heiko, thank you. Thank you for your sharing your know-how on this fascinating topic.
My pleasure.
Unfortunately, we have run out of time.
Oh, okay, absolutely. It's really nice.
What would you recommend to lawyers on generative artificial intelligence?
Okay. I would say that generative AI holds a lot of potential. It will transform work as we know it, especially in the legal field. But it's crucial that we don't just let technology run its course. We need to guide its evolution. That means we need diverse voices, technologists, ethicists, regulators, legal professionals. Let's embrace AI, but let's make sure that it upholds fairness, accountability, and transparency. And then it will become a force for good.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much. Very, very interesting, very, very innovation program. As you will see, this has been a groundbreaking program in the legal field on the use of generative artificial intelligence to streamline, document, review, and improve decision-making, providing significant benefits in efficiency and accuracy. Thank you. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Have a fantastic day.
Pues realmente hemos quedado asombrados, maravillados de haber desarrollado con Heiko un tema tan interesante, tan novedoso, tan actual, pero sobre todo un tema que hoy se va a constituir en una herramienta que va a facilitar la tarea de los abogados en nuestro país. Sin embargo, tampoco podemos dejar de reconocer una situación que Heiko ha marcado de manera específica, que es el uso ético de esta parte tan importante de la inteligencia artificial generativa, que en un momento dado puede tener ciertos riesgos y que esto amerita, como él ha dicho, de alguna manera una regulación. Eso no podemos dejar de tomarlo en consideración. Muchísimas gracias por haber estado con nosotros en este programa espectacular en mi concepto. Muy agradecidos con Heiko por habernos brindado esta parte de su tiempo y habernos explicado todos los beneficios de esta gran herramienta tecnológica. Pero sobre todo, gracias a ustedes por compartir una vez más esta emisión de Charlas Magistrales de la Barra Mexicana Colegio de Abogados.